Senator Kelly Seyarto, and I am the author of SCA 4, and I am proud to be joined by other supporters of this important legislation, many of whom you will also be hearing from shortly. SCA 4 is our fight to restore protections for taxpayers to keep their childhood homes and family businesses when their parents or grandparents pass away. In 2020, Prop 19 narrowly passed on the California ballot. It was titled, and I quote, "The Home Protection for Seniors, Severely Disabled, Families, and Victims of Wildfire or Natural Disasters Act." Who couldn't vote for that? Unfortunately, as voters soon discovered, this was a Trojan horse. While some aspects of this prop were very good, this changed the way that intergenerational transfers of property were handled, all to the detriment of Californians who had worked so hard for so many years to solidify a future for themselves and their families. And that was the hidden implication. This means that under current law, if a family works hard to acquire a home, when it comes time to let the next generation reap the benefits, they can be met with an unsustainable property tax bill. Tax reassessments on inherited property often lead to the family being forced to sell their homes or close down their businesses. This is an unacceptable consequence for families who are trying to set themselves up and future generations for success. Prop 19 repealed an important taxpayer protection from the California Constitution that taxpayers have relied on for decades. Simply put, Prop 19 resurrected the death tax. We should be making it easier for Californians to inherit property without asking them to absorb the burden of additional taxes. Upward economic mobility cannot be achieved unless we let people own what they create through decades of hard work. The last 30 years stands as proof that the best way for all families to create upward economic mobility is through the acquisition of property and being able to pass that property along to the next generation. Since the introduction of SCA 4, citizens across the state have made thousands of calls and sent in thousands of emails and letters of support to my office and other legislative entities. This legislation has one purpose. It's to restore protections for taxpayers and to keep the intrusive reach of government away from their and family inheritance. SCA 4 is for the taxpayer who has worked so hard to build a better life for their family. The first speaker I'd like to introduce today, and I'd like to welcome to the podium, is a strong supporter of SCA 4 and taxpayer protection. He is the CEO of the Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association, and that is Jon Coupal.
Thank you very much, Senator Seyarto. First, I want to thank the Senator for sponsoring this bill. It's such a critical bill. As he just said, when people voted for Proposition 19, they had no idea what was underneath the surface of it. The elimination of the protection of intergenerational transfers is a devastating blow to all Californians who seek to pass along their real estate to their children or their grandchildren. And we're committed to restoring that. What people don't realize is that in 1986, the California legislature instituted the intergenerational transfer protection. They did it because they passed the bill that put Prop 58 on the ballot. And the California legislature did that by unanimous vote of both houses. When was the last time any bill passed unanimous vote in both houses of the California legislature? They put it on the ballot to institute that intergenerational transfer protection, and the voters supported it by 76%. And so have things changed that much since 1986? Maybe a little bit. But when we poll this, it is clear that voters of this state want to restore that protection. Proposition 19 did have one beneficial provision in it, and that was the provision to be able to transfer your Prop 13 base to another residence, to another county. We always supported that. There was a proposition called Prop 10, which is a clean version of that. We supported that, but unfortunately, the interest behind Prop 19 said, well, we need to find a way to pay for it. Their way of paying for it was the provision to take away the intergenerational transfer. What the voters of the state of California did not know is that Proposition 19 was the biggest property tax increase in the history of California. People are stunned when they hear that. If you don't believe me, look at the LAO's report when Prop 19 was on the ballot. We're going to work very hard to restore this protection, and we know the voters want it. And we hope the California legislature supports this. It deserves strong bipartisan support from all demographics across the state of California. This is not just a conservative versus liberal, Republican versus Democrat. We are hearing from people across the political spectrum, particularly many in the minority communities who own small unit apartment buildings or had planned on passing along their homes to their children. And now that right has been taken away, and as the senator pointed out, if he thinks he's gotten a lot of calls, well, Senator, I would challenge you the number of calls we got, and also the calls that the Board of Equalization received and the county assessors. I want to thank the Board of Equalization as well as the county assessors in California who have worked very hard with us to try to correct this. And as I said, this is a nonpartisan issue. One of our strongest supporters is the assessor of LA, Jeffrey Prang. Jeffrey Prang is no Republican. He is extremely progressive. But he recognizes, as well as everybody else who looks at this issue, that we need to reinstate the intergenerational transfer protection. It's what taxpayers deserve. It's what families deserve. Thank you very much.
Thank you, John, and thank you for all your work in protecting taxpayers in the state for so very long. Next up, I have a speaker who came all the way from Los Angeles to support us today, Dr. Rosie Milligan. She is an author and estate planner and holds a PhD in business management. Welcome, Dr. Rosie Milligan.
Thank you very much. As he said, my name is Dr. Rosie Milligan. I'm an estate planner. And what I do is teach people how to hold on to wealth and how to pass it down to the next generation. Proposition 19 totally undermines that. I support SCA 4 because their intent is to repeal the devastating impact of Prop 19. I support SCA 4 because it protects California families out of their home by being taxed out, a very critical issue. The American dream is to own a home, and families have worked so hard to leave generational wealth for Proposition 19 to take that away. This is a very critical issue, and it is very impactful, and it saddens my heart to think of what it could do, despite all the homelessness that we see. Will California become a rental state, or will we own homes? So I beg and plead to everybody to understand, owning a home, passing down generational wealth is what we were all taught to do. We were taught from a biblical standpoint to leave something for your children. So we have to make this change. I'm committed. With every breath that I have, I will fight to see this through. I support, I stand strong, and I appreciate the author for SCA 4. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Milligan, and especially thank you for coming all the way up from Los Angeles here. Next up, I'd like to ask Linda Scheck to share with us some of her perspective as a realtor in Elk Grove. Linda?
Good morning, everyone. My name is Linda Chack, and I call Elko my home. Thank you for inviting me to speak in support of Senate Constitution Amendment 4 and why it is important to us. For nearly 22 years, I have worked as a real estate agent in Sacramento County. I love my job because I help connect families with the opportunity of finding the forever home in the complex of real estate world. My job is very rewarding on many levels as I help families find their forever home. It warms my heart to bring smiles and see the joy in the eyes of the new homeowners as I hand over the key to them. And they know that they have achieved a slice of the American dream. Besides speaking English, I also speak Vietnamese and Chinese, which allows me to help hundreds of immigrant families who do not speak English well and have no idea how to navigate the complexity of finding a home in the real estate market. 90% of my clients are immigrants, and over the years, I help at least 60 to 70 families a year in purchasing their forever home. My immigrant clients buy the forever home in hopes of leaving that home to their son or daughter after they pass. They work hard to save up to purchase that perfect home, and they want that opportunity left behind for the children without concerns of placing their children in debt. SCA 4 is fighting for taxpayers' rights to leave their homes and businesses to the children after their passing. So I'm here to support and strongly recommend everybody to support SCA 4. I want to thank you, Mr. Senator Kelly Seyarto and other elected officials who are supporting this bill. SCA 4 is very important to all of us, to every family, especially the immigrants that work hard to save their money and to buy the home to leave it for the next generation and hopefully to create wealth for the family. And SCA 4 will help us to protect that. Thank you everyone for supporting.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Linda. So next up, I'm happy to introduce Veronica Nelson. She is the first Vice President and Legislative Chair for the Sacramento Realtors Association.
Good morning. Thank you again. Thank you, Arthur, and the members who are supporting this important legislation. Again, I'm Veronica Nelson. I'm with the Sacramento Realtors and the California Association of Real Estate Brokers. We were founded in 1947 because people of color could not purchase homes, could not become real estate agents, and so our organization was founded. Our motto is democracy in housing. This important legislation protects the next generation. It preserves affordable housing. It stands for all the things that we stand for. So we lend our voice, we lend our hand, we lend all our support to support this important legislation. So we need you and everyone to get behind Senate Constitutional Amendment 4. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
And then last but certainly not least, I want to introduce my colleague, Senator Aniello. He comes from up here in Northern California. And so, Senator, come on down. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you very much. I don't want to repeat all of the great points that have made so far, but I don't think that we can emphasize enough the terribly and I think intentionally biased title and summary of this measure. Stated before, it is the Home Protection for Seniors, Severely Disabled Families, and Victims of Wildfire or Natural Disasters Act. It should have been added to that, and the largest tax increase that the state has passed. That was left out of the title and summary. It was left out of all of the advertising for the measure. And as I said, blatant and intentional. This was written by somebody who wanted this measure to pass, keeping in the dark the reality of the repeal of Propositions 58 and 193. Not only was 58 put on the ballot by a unanimous vote of the legislature, but in addition to that, both of those propositions were passed with very significant majorities, whereas 19 was passed with a rather narrow majority. I would submit that if it was a true title and summary, it wouldn't have passed at all. We're going to correct that error with SCA 4, of which I'm a proud co-author.
So thank you to everybody for sharing your perspectives and experiences of how Prop 19 affected you and your family, and how SCA 4 would allow for a better future for you and your children. I would also like to give a special thank you to Assembly Member Mike Gibson, who is my colleague from down in Compton, who is a principal co-author of SCA 4. And who has been a valuable partner in this effort to promote and protect upward mobility for all California's families. As we have heard today, SCA 4 would be a welcome reprieve from rising housing costs and taxes during a time of record inflation and economic instability. We must support California's families and their pursuit of economic stability. We will continue to fight for taxpayers' rights and trust in your support along the way. SCA 4 is going to be heard in the Senate Governance and Finance Committee on May 10th at 9:30. It will be the only issue on that agenda, and I would encourage everyone to contact your legislators to let them know that you're in strong support of this and that you are hoping that they will pass this along. And one thing to remember, if the legislature, both houses of the legislature pass this, this actually goes to the ballot, and people will have the opportunity to focus on just this part of Prop 19, which is the part that's doing all the damage. So thank you so much for everybody coming out today, and appreciate your support in listening to this. Thank you.